don't. You get what you need. And if that's the class that you're in, ace it. Then complain about it later. We're going to move on. Mr. Daniel has an announcement. Better now.
Alright, here to talk about the after school program and the wrestling program kind of with Mr. David. At first I know a lot of you guys were under the impression that, and we all were under the impression that the wrestling program was going to be a part of the after school program. You were going to have to pay $25 to do that, a week to do that. Well, we came to the conclusion, because I wanted the wrestling program to be strictly a TFA thing, that we're going to kind of be separate through the wrestling season, and at the end of the season, I'll start teaching you guys jiu-jitsu, which will be part of the after school program again. So with the wrestling program, if you want to come out, it's only $10 a week to come out to do that. If you can't really afford that, please don't let that deter you from coming out for the wrestling program, because we're better with numbers, and we'll find a way to make that happen for you. One thing about this wrestling program, I want some of you guys to realize, like, and I'm just going to ask you a simple question, like, how many of you guys have ever started something from the foundation, from the bottom up? Like, if you've ever started something from the bottom up, raise your hand. Anything from the bottom up. Well, this is what the wrestling program is about. For you guys who never started something from the bottom up, was never been able to be something from the first time you started. Think about it. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when this wrestling program is a striving wrestling program, maybe even 5 years from now, you guys all have the opportunity to be a part of something that you started that was never here. A wrestling program, something that you could be a proud of, something you can hold your head up and say, hey, I started that. I can assure you right now that this wrestling program will be a top-notch wrestling program, because that's the type of person I am. I strive for the best, and I want nothing but the best from the people who I'm working with. So this is an opportunity for any of you guys that want to go to college, any of you guys that want to just learn discipline and structure, any of you guys that want to do anything, because wrestling really, I've applied wrestling to my life throughout my life. Like, it taught me hard work, it taught me dedication, it taught me commitment, and these are things I was able to take along with me and be able to get where I've gotten to. So it's an opportunity for any of you guys, girls, guys, or whatever, for you to really be a part of something fresh, something new, and I want you guys to really think about that. Think about the impact you'll make, especially you seniors. Think about the impact you'll make on these underclassmen, which people are going to be coming up in your shoes. People, like Hakeem is going to be a good wrestler. I can already tell that by his work ethic. Like, you guys laugh, but I'm seriously, man. Like, that guy works hard. Like, he came, like, he worked hard, and I see that, and people will start to look up to that, man, and it's something to be proud of. So I want you guys to really, really think about that. As far as girls, if you want to wrestle, that's fine, because there are girl wrestling tournaments that you guys can participate in. Also, a wrestling team, if you ever went to any traditional school, always has managers. We need help. So if you don't want to necessarily wrestle, and you still want to be a part of something brand new, we have a place for you. So don't let anything hesitate you guys or stop you guys or deter you guys from wanting to come out and be a part of this business. That's okay.
I'm just going to add, you probably don't heard that wrestling is just going to be stored in an Olympic sport.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do with that, but it's still back in the 2020. It's still back in the 2020 Olympics. So, yeah, man. We have practice today after school. We'll be meeting here at 4 o'clock. School gets out at 3:45. So we'll be meeting here at 4 o'clock. And if you don't have your money today, you don't have your form filled out today, which you can stay after. Please stay after and talk to me or talk to Mr. Davis, because, like I said, man, it's something great to be a part of. You know, the first. You know, you say I was the first to be a part of that, and I can already tell you, the people who came Friday will tell you that we have big things in store for you guys. I've already got sponsors. I've already got people looking into getting uniforms, singlets, Letterman's jacket. So, like, I'm running this as an actual program, like, to leverage you guys in a sport, something that none of you guys have been able to get yet, in my opinion, or I haven't seen you guys do this yet. So really think about it. If you want to be a part of something fresh, something new, be the first to do it, you know. this is where it began. So that's all I really got to say, you know, and I hope to see, you know, a lot of you guys out there today. So.
With that, any money exchange, please either give it to myself or Ms. Valerie. We have a spreadsheet on Google Docs that we both update, so, give money to either me or Ms. Valerie, we'll give you a receipt, and then, absolutely, amen, join, but I need people too. If Mr. Daniel's got 80 people in here, I'm gonna be out there in the community by myself, just driving around. So I need people too.
So listen, real quick, to pick up on what Mr. Davis is talking about, now I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. J. Everything's not always about sport. You know, Mr. Davis has got a lot of activities lined up for after school. I know one of them was like kayaking and different things that he's trying to get into. A lot of you guys are just going home and watching TV, eating. This is the opportunity right now. 6 years, I've watched kids complain about how this school has nothing to do. So now it's starting to formulate. And now that you got people that are willing to put their time into it, just like I have, it's up to you to make it happen. He can't make it happen by himself. He can't make it happen by himself. I got guys out here that are playing football on Friday that you can support. Big up to those guys Friday night. The stuff is here. So what I will see now is either people who always sit back and ridicule and be spectators, or you'll jump on board and get involved with what's happening here and not what's happening at First Coast or what's happening at Fletcher or what's happening at Sandalwood. Support your family here. All right? What you got, Corey? Talk to him. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. J.
Ow! It's not funny. I was a wrestler. Back in college, I went to the ring. Women screamed. Children fainted. Strong men turned white. I forgot my trunks. My dad was a wrestler. He was wrestling on a ship when he was in the Navy. He had 6 meals. 3 going down, 3 coming up. He was hanging over the side. Captain said, "What's the matter? You weak?" He said, "What do you mean weak? I'm throwing as far as the rest of them." Somebody had a really strong stomach, though, because they said, "Heave up the anchor." See, my dad was a wrestler. I had this client that had been in a very bad accident, and he was having a hard time socially. He sat down and talked with me about counseling, and he said to me that he'd gotten hurt in the accident and he didn't know what to do. And he had gotten hurt. As a matter of fact, he had a wooden eye, and nobody wanted to talk to him about it. And he thought girls wouldn't talk to him because he had a wooden eye. So I thought about this for a while, and then I thought, well, you know what? I've got another client who was in an accident, and she has a cleft lip. So I said to him, "Listen, would you like to meet her and you guys could talk together?" And he said, "Yeah, I'd like that." I said, "Well, now do me a favor. She doesn't want anybody to mention her cleft lip. She's very, very worried about it. So if you promise to be quiet and just talk to her, that'd be fine." He said, "Yeah, I'd like that." So I arranged for her and him to get together, and they sat around talking in the office. So I listened, and it was going very well. They seemed to like each other. They were getting along together. And I heard him say to her, "Listen, I like you. Would you like to go out to dinner sometime?" And she said, "Oh, wouldn't I?" He said, "Hair lip, hair lip." Go home and ask Mom about it. Let her explain it to you. I want to tell you about a true story, and because of the true story, I don't want to goof up their names, so I wrote them down. It happened in October 2010. Jim O'Neill, a relatively elderly man by your standard, by my standard, pretty young, but relatively an older man, was flying his Cessna. He was just out having a good time. He went into his plane, and he started taking it out and flying it around. And all of a sudden, he couldn't see. Suddenly, he just couldn't see. He couldn't see the instrument panel. He couldn't see outside the plane. He just couldn't see. He had a stroke. And he'd suddenly gone immediately blind. So he called into the RAF. He was going to Glasgow, Scotland. He called into the RAF and said, listen, I don't know what to do. I can't see. I'm blind. All of a sudden, I don't know how I'm going to land this plane. Well, it just so happened that in the tower was a man called Paul Gerard, who was the wing commander of the flight school that they were running. And so Paul took over the controls and said, Jim, I want you to listen very carefully to me. I'm going to help you land this plane, and you're going to be fine. When Jim heard the voice, he suddenly felt comforted. So he started to listen. And what Paul did was watch on the monitor and guide Jim as to how to drive. Need to go a little bit left, Jim. A little bit over to the left. Now straighten the wings out. Now try going straight for a while. All right, now turn a little bit right. Now come a little bit down. Go down about 10,000 feet if you can feel that. If you can't feel it, then go down as far as you can. I'll tell you where you are. And I'll keep guiding you until you get there. Well, to make a long story short, he finally guided him over to the airport. And Jim said, I think I'm here. What should I do now? I want you to cut your engine back. Cut down one engine just a little bit. I want you to cut them down slowly. I want you to let the plane come down. Now, if it needs tilting, I'll tell you where to turn. I'll tell you how to guide it. I'll tell you what to do. As it came down a little bit more, and finally Paul said, we're almost there, Paul. Now, the first time they came, couldn't do it. Paul said, pull up. Let's go around again. They had to go around 8 times because poor Jim couldn't see anything, and he was scared to death. But Paul finally said in the last time, all right, we're doing very well here. Cut down the engine, turn a little to the left, now turn the plane a little bit to the right, cut down a little bit more on the engine, and finally Paul said, Jim, I think it's safe to land. And Jim cut the engines. The plane landed as if it was beautiful and as Jim could see. And the plane just rested. And then the paramedics came and picked Jim up, and he turned out to be okay after a while. Now, we listen to a lot of voices. Whether you like it or not, you're on a flight. You're on a journey just like Jim was, where you're in the sky. And where you're going, I'm not sure. Where I'm going, I'm not sure, until I take time to examine who I am and where I'm going and how healthy I am at the time. Let me talk to you about another voice. It just so happened that this man was a motivational speaker. He was a great speaker. People really enjoyed listening to him. And he had a crowd that was following him wherever he went. And he held these weekend seminars. So on this particular weekend seminar, he charged $10,000 from Friday to Monday. And they paid it. And he explained that he would motivate them, help them get better in their business, and if they'd work hard for him, he'd see to it that they were successful, and he'd be their mentor if they needed it. So they were willing to listen to what he had to say. Well, on Friday, just before the seminar began, they had a big tent breakfast, a buffet breakfast, where they all gathered together and they were all hyper up, all excited about what they were about to do, all eating breakfast and enjoying it. Within half an hour, 5 people died from the breakfast. Whatever was in the breakfast killed them. Whatever they had cooked, whatever they had put together, whatever they had missed healthy-wise, 5 people, before that seminar could even start, died. Why? Because these people listened to the voice, gave the voice $10,000, and decided somehow that voice would be enough. I'm going to tell you two things today. Number one, you need to be careful to the voice you listen to. You need to pick the voices that you're listening to. All of you are listening to somebody. All of you are listening to friends, neighbors, parents, kids, who knows who. You need to think about who you're making a mentor in your life. And you need to ask yourself, if I ate breakfast from this guy, or if I was flying this plane, would his voice or her voice comfort me or not? There are plenty of voices out there that are going to tell you, hey, I'll make you rich. Now, I say this carefully. I get about 6 calls from all over the world from people trying to sell me their stock. Dr. Johnson, we're going to make you rich. I promise you, if you put your money into this, you're going to be surprised. We're going to make this movie, Dr. Johnson, and if you'll take your money and put it into this movie, we're going to make you rich. We promise. I get at least 6 of those calls. You can bet that I've got identification on my phone now, and I don't answer it half the time. Somebody calls me from Tucson, my first question is, so now who do I know from Tucson? Because I don't want to sit there and listen to all this garbage about sales. Most people want your money. Most people don't care about you. And that's a problem. You need to think about who you're talking to and what their intention is, what they want out of you, what they think they can get. Obviously, Mr. Gerard was willing to help Jim because he needed help. Paul didn't ask for any money from Jim. He said, Jim, I'm going to guide you. I'm going to get you down safe. And that's all Paul cared about. This motivation speaker, he wanted money from everybody. He didn't care whether he poisoned them or not. Didn't take enough time to see if they were healthy. There are thousands of voices that you're going to hear every day that are like that. You have to ask yourself, which voice are you listening to? And those voices are going to tell you all kinds of things. Those voices are going to tell you all sorts of things that are not happening, and especially about Jesus. Now, when Jesus had gathered his disciples together at Caesarea Philippi, he stood in front of all the religions of the world. On the one hand, there was the temple of Diana. In the middle, there was the temple of lust. On the other one was the temple of money and giving. On the other one, there was the temple of gluttony. Jesus stood in front of those 4 temples and said to his disciples, who do you say that I am? Now, there are plenty of people that say Jesus is all kinds of things. He's a good man. He's a prophet. Maybe he can do some good things. He must have been okay with God somehow. I'll bet if he dies, he goes to heaven. That's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, I am God. I created you. I determine the destiny of the universe. Now, that's a lot for a man to say. Let's say that you took on Jesus as a best friend, and then you walked around with Jesus, and he sat down in one of these chairs, and the first thing he said to anybody was, I am God. Now, that's exactly what Jesus said in the Bible. He said, I have created you. I am the one that you will have to determine your destiny. Now, the Bible says very clearly, there's no choice in this. If Jesus was a liar, he was not a good man. Don't kid yourself. If Jesus didn't know what he was talking about, then he was not a good man. He was fooling people, including me, including all of us that think maybe God says who he is. The Bible says, he that has the Son of God has life. He that has not the Son of God has not life, but the wrath of God abideth in him. If you don't know Jesus, right now, you are dead to hell. You are headed to damn. You've got to learn and understand that Jesus means what he said. Standing before Thomas, he said, I, Thomas, am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Jesus wasn't kidding. He wasn't fooling around with his disciples. He had 3 years for his disciples to understand who he was, because your destiny and my destiny depended on who we thought Christ was. And Jesus made very clear, I want you to understand that when God talks about man coming to earth, he's talking about me. I have brought God to earth, and you are going to have to make your decisions on me. Now, that's true with you just as it is with me. I questioned Jesus. I studied him. I looked at him historically. I had a lot of questions that I couldn't believe. I heard a lot of stories I couldn't believe. But I'm going to tell you something. One day, I decided to take him by faith. And I said, all right, Jesus, if you really can do what you say you can do, I want you to come into my life and change it. Young people, I'm telling you, my life has never been the same. And every one of you, God has a plan for your life. He is waiting to put that plan to work. And it's up to you to let him. Now, God will not take your life away from you. God gave you your life. He never takes away what he gives. But he gave you a chance to give it back to him so that you could experience his life and yours. Throughout the history that Jesus existed, he taught the disciples what they had trouble learning. He walked on water. He turned water into wine. He changed a lady that had a hemorrhage of blooding for 12 years, healed her. He brought the blind so that they could see. He brought the dead back to walk. He was different. He proved that he could do what he said. And he never talked about his power. He never stood up after something was done and said, look at this. I told you I was who I claimed to be, because what he did worked. Because what he said he could do. You need to let God do that. You need to let God change your life. Now, you don't have to. You don't have to give your life back to God. You can keep it all you want, but you'll have to answer for it. Let me tell you something. I was in an accident that almost killed me. I didn't have any power to bring myself back to life. I didn't have any power to create some kind of miracle. God loved me enough to keep me going. I couldn't say to you, bring me a blind person and I'll help him see. I couldn't say to you, bring me somebody that limps and I'll help him so that he can walk. I couldn't say to you, have this guy come to me and I'll be able to heal him. I can't heal. I can't create miracles. I'm not good enough to be able to do those things. But Jesus changed my life. And he wants to change yours. He hadn't born you just for no reason. He had you born so that you could carry out his purpose in his life for your sake, for the sake of the person sitting next to you, for the chance to be somebody that can save the world and change it. That's why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Without the way there is no going. Without the truth there is no knowing. Without the life there is no living. And if you don't have the life in you, you don't know what it means to live. You are not the body you carry around. You and I both know that you are inside and I can't see you. I don't know what you're like. I don't know how insecure you are. I don't know what kind of fears you've got. I don't know what kind of problems you face. But I know this. Inside here where I cannot see you, Christ wants to make you live and take care of you. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. You need guidance. You need help. I need guidance. I need help. I yield to the Christ that loves me and the Christ that has taken care of me. When Jim had the stroke, that plane that he was in could have crashed if it were not for the voice of Paul Gerard, who said, all right, cut the engine. I think it's safe for you to land. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, faculty, all of you, you have a chance to experience destiny. You and I without Christ are blind. We don't know why we were born. Give Christ the opportunity to know which direction you're going. And then, when you die, you will hear Jesus say to you, if you've listened to his voice, all right, it's safe for you to land. God bless you.
As Ms. Swamp makes her way up to enlighten us for Tai Chi today after school,